Hi there, beautiful soul. So the first step towards getting rid of anti-attachments is becoming aware that you do have an anti-attachment, right? Which is why in today's video, I'm going to talk about major symptoms of anti-attachments and how you can tell if you do have one or multiples. So let's get started. And so the first thing that gives it away pretty easily is that you simply don't feel like yourself all of a sudden or after a specific event in your life. And by not feeling like yourself, I mean that everything just feels a little darker than what it used to feel. So you are just more negative, more anxious, sad, worried about everything. Everything just feels a little bit darker, and your perspective is, way more negative, way more negative. You feel way more anxious, way more worried about everything in your life. There's just like a heaviness, a feeling of heaviness on your chest, and it's just hard for you to understand what's going on with you. You know that something's off, but you don't know what it is. And so a very important thing to say here is that anti-attachments are not necessarily acquired on the way. So you might actually be born with anti-attachments, in which case you would actually struggle to tell if you do have one, because this is just who you have been always. You've always been very anxious, always been sad. You always had this very pessimistic attitude and view of life, and that's just who you've always been, right? So in these specific cases, it might be a little bit harder for you to tell that something's wrong, because you might have identified with this way of being, right? And so here I am to tell you that no, you're not. This is not who you are. And, being constantly in this very, very negative emotional states and mental state is not normal, okay? You're not supposed to feel anxious, worried, angry, fearful, scared, just negative all the time. And if you do, then it's highly likely you're being energetically interfered, right? So this is the first sign, first symptom. And so very much connected to this first point is having very extreme negative emotions and thoughts, intrusive thoughts. And by extreme, I mean that you might actually be having a pretty normal day, like average day. You might be feeling average, normal, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, you start feeling really bad, really anxious, really worried, really angry about something. It's like something happens in you and you just feel bad. Life feels bad. Life itself feels bad. And you just go down these super negative thought spiral. And these intrusive thoughts are just obsessive, super negative, super mean towards you in particular, but also towards everything in your life. Okay, everything just feels horrible, and you just see life through these very, dark lenses. It's very hard for you to have, to be objective, okay, about your circumstances, because, you're just lost into this super negative thought spiral, and you don't seem to be able to stop it, because these thoughts are very obsessive, are very intrusive, and they usually come with fear, with worry, with anxiety. It's just this feeling in your chest that, it doesn't go away. Indeed, connected to this is having chronic anxiety and panic attacks. These are huge signs of anti-attachments. Okay, chronic anxiety and panic attacks. They can come together or, one at a time, but they're a pretty big sign. And then another major symptom is chronic fatigue. Now, one thing I want you to make sure here is that your chronic fatigue is not caused by a physical illness. Once you make sure that it isn't, then we can consider anti-attachments, right? Now, chronic fatigue usually comes with sleep disturbances of any kind. So you might simply, struggle to sleep properly, have a full night of sleep, or you might have insomnia or sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is very, very common, a very big sign of anti-attachments when it's chronic. You might have nightmares, okay? Nightmares are another big, major symptom of anti-attachments, especially if they are frequent. They can come from time to time. I would say that in that case, there's still energy interferences going on. But if they tend to be chronic, then the anti-attachments is very, very deep, right? It's very, strongly active and constantly interfering with your energy. And so as you struggle to, have a full night of sleep, then you might end up having chronic fatigue. But you might also sleep well or feel like you had a full night of sleep, and yet you wake up and you feel exhausted. You feel absolutely exhausted. That's also very typical and a very typical sign of anti-attachments. And then we go into the strange feelings, sensations, and phenomena category. What I mean by strange is that you might experience a series of feelings, sensations that are a little bit hard to explain. Like, for example, very common is the one where you feel that someone is touching you very lightly, or someone is touching you very intensely. Okay, the intensity can, depend upon the intensity of the attachment. Or you might feel as if someone is there, but you don't see anyone. Or as if someone is staring at you. Or as if, you're being watched. You're being constantly watched by somebody. That's the feeling that, it's being described. It's very, very common. Or another very common one is this pressure, like feeling like a pressure on your chest, on your head, on your solar plexus, basically around your major energy centers. And then another strange feeling could be these hot and cold sensations all over your body and in very random points, usually still around your energy centers, but they can, you can feel them like throughout your body. It's not always around your energy centers. And they could be these very hot and cold sensation, like you suddenly feel super hot on your shoulder or super hot on your heart or on your head, These are also very common. It's because we have the entity every single time an entity is taking energy, feeding off energy, it needs to turn on the energy centers, which is why we might have these strange sensations, because the energy centers are being activated, right? And so at this point, having all of these strange feelings, you might start developing irrational fears, like fear of being constantly watched, spied upon, fear of people stalking you, fear of people wanting to hurt you, and things like that. And here is where I'm going to connect with the following point, which is mental disorder. Okay, mental disorders are big signs for anti-attachments, right? This is a very controversial thing I'm going to say, but if you've been diagnosed with schizophrenia, depression, bipolar disorder, narcissistic disorder, or other types of personality disorders, sexual addictions, sexual obsessions, sexual attraction towards minors. I can't say the proper word because I don't want YouTube to ban this video. Other types of, sexual compulsions and obsessions. And there are more, but I can't think of other. These are the main ones that usually are very strongly connected to having anti-attachments. So if you've been diagnosed with one of these mental disorders, then you do have anti-attachments, right? It's 100% sure you do have one, I would say multiple anti-attachments. If you have suicidal tendencies, which is very common when you suffer from depression, there is highly likely 100% an entity or multiple entities interfering with you, with your energy, manipulating you. If you have huge phobias, obsessive compulsive disorder, paranoid disorder, all these type of disorders, mental disorders that make you feel powerless, constantly fearful, constantly scared of everything. These are huge, signs of energy interference. And then, still connected to this point are addictions. So, we all know the major ones, right? Alcohol and drugs. But they could also be sexual addictions, gaming, food addictions, all type of addiction, really. They usually are pretty much caused by anti-attachments. So as you can see, all types of compulsions are pretty big signs of anti-attachments. And then last but not least, we have relationship troubles. So what I mean by relationship troubles is that you might simply struggle to have a healthy, balanced, and harmonious relationship with people that you really care about. So with your partner, life partner, or with family members, or with close friends. So you might usually end up in these big, violent, and very intense fights, very frequent fights for stupid things. You might feel as if they are constantly attacking you for no apparent reason or for really stupid reasons. Or you might be the one who, gets into these fights even on the internet or whatever, And it's very, very common, feeling this aggression towards you from close people in your life or even from strangers. This is because the entities that are around you are not only manipulating you, but also the people around you, so that they can feed off that, low vibrational energy, that anger, that sadness, that rage, all of these type of low vibrational emotions. The emotional friction and struggle is what entities, lower vibrational entities, are looking for, so that they can feed off that energy, right? And so that's it. That's it for today's video. Anti-attachment symptoms and signs are a lot, okay? These just the major ones that are very easy to notice in yourself if you've been, experiencing them. But as I said, there are a lot. There is really a huge list of these symptoms, these signs that you can experience, and they tend also to be very personal. Some of them can be experienced in a very personal way, and they can be very unique to, to the individual. But this is pretty much it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, that it was useful. Let me know in the comments if you experienced any of these symptoms, if you can relate to any of these symptoms. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.